Well, good morning, my friends. I feel like I'm on vacation. I finished that project that I've been working on vigorously and had a couple of days off. First day was sleeping away. and even though I've had to go to the job site and check on the status on a couple of things, but I feel like I've been off for a while. Like my boss said, well-deserved couple of days off. And come Monday, I'm back on another job, going to Miami this time. Last job was in Tampa. And this one coming up, it's going to be an 8-week job in Miami. Small pizza place. Actually, it's not that small, but it's a smaller job per se. Not nearly as complex as the one that I just finished. But anyway, it was a fun... I shouldn't say that. It was quite a challenge of a job. Started off, it was already behind schedule, and then it gets to the end, and you know, even though I was never laxed about the job, it was always being hard and making sure that it got things done. But at the very end, when you have 3 days to close or to produce a store and deliver, that's where it tests your, I don't know what you want to call it. It really puts you to the test. That's working for the last few weeks, actually. For the last 3 weeks or so. It was working, you know, nothing short of 16, 20-hour days. A couple of times I would just go outside and actually doze off in my truck for a couple of hours and be right back inside and get things rolling. Anyway, I'm back in the shed, and I gotta tell you, you are away from your workshop for 3-4 weeks, and you come back. It's disappointing, to say the least. You know, a couple of my tools gathered some rust. You know, I didn't even have a chance to look in this direction for the last few weeks. So my lathe is not bad, thank God, that's my thing, but a couple of tools. My disc sander has accumulated some surface rust on it. My bandsaw blade, I can see that it has a little bit of rust, but a big disappointment when I got back, and I've been wanting to do something with this wood since I got it. I created the very first piece the day that I got it and have not looked at it again. But the biggest disappointment I've seen on any of my woods, checking. That bottle washer checks like no wood that I have ever seen. I got a pile of wood out there. I mean, huge pile. Oak, you name it, all the woods that I've gathered over the last year that I still have out there. Mango and pine and you know, I have a little bit of checking on all this wood because I don't prep the ends. I don't anchor seal. I just cut it and, you know, let it stay and do what nature wants it to do. But that wood, the bottle washer, I don't think I can get any pieces out of it. Maybe a couple of small pieces from the middle of the length of a log. But let me just aim the camera that way rather than me picking it up. I'm going to see if I can cut something out of this, but it's not likely. I think it's all trashed. It's all firewood. But every single piece, whether if it's a skinny piece, whether if it's just a little branch, or whether if it's the log, the checking is unbelievable. And my gut feeling tells me that it actually goes in quite a bit. I'm going to split this one in half and see what I get out of it. Hopefully by the time I round it off, hopefully the checking won't be going all the way through, but it goes on both sides. I mean, what's on this end is just as bad. So let's see what I get out of this. Well, I don't think there's much hope for this wood. It's bad. It's really bad. I will turn stuff that's checked and stuff like that, but I don't think there's much hope whatsoever for this particular piece of wood. Now, let me bring up a point. You know, people say, wow, you know, you were able to turn that, and if I turned it, it would have blown apart. You know, I do turn things, and you can say that I take some chances, but I look at my wood. I look at its weaknesses. And I'm not saying I can predict it all the time, but for instance, this piece, I would not put this on a lathe in hopes that I could get a vase out of this. I can clearly see that this check goes all the way through, and the fibers are not interlaced. In other words, they're not cross fibers still grabbing the whole piece together. And the very last piece I did, which was sea grape, you could see I knew that I had some checking at the bottom, and I didn't do anything on the band, so I just put it up on the lathe, and I turned it, and much to my surprise, it had some wide checking going up the vase. But on that checking, there were fibers going across the wood, making it almost unable to separate itself, even though it could still do it. But the odds were in my favor with that one. It was not a clear line of a split going all the way through where it had grabbed that growth ring. And growth ring that's the key word in there, is that if something is following precisely on a growth ring and there's no interlacing of that, the odds are pretty good that that piece will split off on you. It's like a crotch that you have, and you have this defined, it never fused into each other on the growth of the tree, and you have a very defined growth pattern going through. The odds are pretty good that part of that will split off on you. So yes, I look at the wood that I'm turning. I take the precautions from within the lathe itself with the speed, and I observe, and I'm listening. I am doing all kinds of subconscious things as I'm turning the piece to make sure that it's not going to fly off. It's not putting me in any type of danger. We have enough dangers without adding with the piece, and I understand that. But if I'm turning and I hear a slightly different sound, it doesn't sound quite as solid, or it sounds like a little hollow chatter type thing, I know to look at that a little bit closer and examine it and see what's going on with the piece that it's going to maintain. So I have to go out there and see what I'm going to do, what I'm going to make that will make this day, this very precious day to me, worthy of my time in here. So, be right back. Well, I'm back. And with my disappointment and going through the pile and just pushing off all the pieces of this beautiful wood to the side to going to the wood pile, and still in hopes that I could get a piece. Well, I had a piece in there that was fairly long, 3 foot long, all kinds of twists and the crotch on it. And out of that piece, I was able to salvage a couple of pieces. You can see that I still got a huge check going in here, but this is not even the area of the piece that I'm going to be turning. Out of the crotch area, triple crotch, as you can see there. Well, I got this piece that actually looks fairly clean. Cut it up, got a little bit of checking still going through here, but cut it up on a bandsaw and rounded it off more or less. And I think that this might look familiar, but that's the piece that I'm going to be working with. It has quite an inclusion here that I think will actually be part of its character and part of something that I want to see if I can maintain. The growth on this is very staggered, so I'm not too worried about it splitting off on me. Now when I was talking about a crotch earlier, when I look at a piece of wood, I consider what I'm working with. Now this is exactly one of the things that I was pointing out. You can see where this crotch, double crotch, okay, 1, 2, where it grew from the main trunk of the tree. You can see that I got this line going up all the way up this thing where the wood didn't have a chance, so its growth pattern did not fuse itself together very well. So this is a very potential piece for it to split off in two, where I got this half and this half. Now, the further in I go, that does not mean that it's going to be alleviated, because you can see that it goes in. Actually, towards the back side, towards the bark, it will even be weaker because I got the inclusions going into it. So with something like this, even though a natural edge on this would look pretty good, I'm not going to attempt that. I'm going to turn it up from the outside. Hopefully I can still maintain some bark on the outside and some inclusions and some of that to add character to the piece, but I'm going to be observing exactly what's going on with this piece as I'm going in and stopping the lathe frequently. Look at the pattern of this growth pattern. I mean, I know that there's a split going in here, but that was also the pit, so I'm not too worried about that split. Once I get in a little bit further in, the split will be gone, but still the growth pattern will still be maintained. So it still will have that possibility, especially when you're finishing it off and you got it already fairly thin and you're going at a high speed. The slightest catch, poof, this is going to fly in two halves. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mount it this way, start turning the outside, get some sort of shape, make a tenon on this, or on this case maybe a mortise, not sure. And actually I want to think about this. Know something? I'm going to make a natural edge. I want this to be part of the top, and I'm going to take my chance with this one and see if it's going to hold up for me. So I'm going to go exactly the way that I was just using at the beginning. I'm going to put the worm screw over here, make a tenon on this side, then flip it over and finish it off. Okay, well, I apologize, sometimes I don't pay attention to the camera, and so what I'm doing is I've mounted it up on the got the spur drive mounted right inside of my chuck on the back side, my center. The pieces, you know, I know this, it's top heavy on this side because I got a lot going on. I got the width, I only got a single stump here. But if I look at this, okay, I'm just a little bit off from this. So what I'm going to do is, because it is top heavy on this side, I'm going to drop it down just a little bit and balance it off a little bit better, because this is going to jump. Okay, that's closer. And I think because I'm so far away from anything on this side, I'm going to bring it back that way a little bit as well. Okay, I think that's well balanced to give me the most I can get out of this piece. Like I said, I gotta be careful with the split off. It is very likely that this will fly away. So for this case, slow it down and face shield on and stand out of the way. I don't care if you're wearing a face shield. If something is flying and it hits you, even on a face shield, it's going to hurt. So, tailstock locked up pretty tight. Plenty of pressure on this. Tool rest close but not hitting. Adjust. And I'm ready to start bringing this over somewhat. I'm not sure if I'm going to actually, let me see something that I didn't take into account. And that's this back side over here, how high I am over here. This piece is much thinner here than it is here. So I want this to, I want to be able to take a little bit more from this side so it becomes somewhat even on the bark side. But on the bark side it's actually not too bad, because I'm fairly flat against my jaws. Yeah, I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to take off quite a bit over here. So here we go. Now, what I want to do with this one is come up where I have a very shallow part from the bottom to show off the bark as much as I can. So the outside edge close to the bark, I want to make it very inward slant. I don't want to round it up right over to the edge and just show the little bit of bark. I want the bark to be highlighted and showing off fairly long along the bottom and the top edge when I finally do my curl over. So this will be somewhat of an OG on all this outside edge over here, and that's what I'm going for. We'll see how that goes. You know, I'm always saying, you know, that I let the piece develop as I'm going, but always be thinking of form and shape as you're developing, as you're going through. This inclusion is going to look really nice on here. I know it will. That's a growth inside of the tree itself that did that for it. This one is still very dangerous situation here. I'm hoping that there's enough fusion over here. But once I get a little bit closer in, I will assist by adding some CA to this whole area and making sure that if there's any chance of it surviving, I'm going to assist it in whichever way I can. Now, as soon as I get over here, I'm going to lose this whole wing, which, you know, I didn't want to. I wanted to see if I could maintain that part of its character, and I don't know, I might decide not so much. Let me see, because I'm still pretty far away from here. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with this. I didn't want to lose that, but well, the intrusion is gone, just about. Alright, this is not going to take any more off from here. I just have to deepen this up a little bit, and I'm almost there. But at this point, I'm going to speed this up to the next step. 600 RPMs, 620 RPMs. Now, as I said, this is a dangerous point. So I'm going to put some CA going in there. And also, I'm going to put some CA going around the bark area, because I do want to maintain that bark. And I want to maintain this coloration of the bark separation that's going through here. So the only way to do that, of course, is to soak it up. The bark on this reminds me a little bit of the bark on the mango. So, doing that, I mean, CA is a little bit on the expensive side. And I would not be doing that if I thought the bowl was not worthy. And because right now I consider this wood to be pretty precious of whatever I have on it, which is very little of it. So I'm going to see if I can save as much of this wood as I can. Um, and it looks like I might, after all, be able to save a couple of pieces, but not much. Not much at all. Alright, cleaned up, and I put a sharp edge on this. And I'm going to get a slightly cleaner cut on here. Hopefully it will clean up some of these fibers as well. Now I could come from inside, outside in to, for the fibers, but I'm not that comfortable with coming that way after a long time off from the lathe. Not too bad. Got a little bit of tear out right in this area right here, but overall it looks pretty good. Couple of tool marks again coming out when I reach this point. Nothing that the sanding would not take care of, but I'm going to see if I can get it a little bit better. Better? Alright, well, I think it's time for me to flip this over. There isn't much more I can do from this end. Now the one good thing about this line that I got going to the back, and the potential of it splitting up, and of course that still exists, and will always exist. But one thing that's working in my favor is the fact that it runs right through the center. Let me bring you in there and show you. Now it runs pretty much through the center, and the jaws are actually keeping it together somehow. It's putting pressure on the whole piece in this way, almost like a clamp. So that might help me out. Now I'm also looking at this, and I know what I said right from the beginning and what I wanted to achieve and how I wanted this to flare out wider, and so I could show off a little bit more bark. But you know, I'm here and I don't see it. I don't see the look that I was
looking for. I see it here, but not here. So I'm actually going to go in there and I'm going to take away some of the sharpness that I got going through this bark area and slightly bring this back over to the other side as a round over. And sometimes we envision something and we start working on it, and that's not what we end up with. Now, I don't want to lose this. I want to maintain this design, but I will limit this down quite a bit. I'll create this OG coming back over to the top. And that should create me something that's a little bit more pleasing to me. And again, that's only my opinion, my preference, and not yours. You do what you think looks the best. I like that better. And I don't know if you agree or not, but to me it's a more pleasing look. I don't like the tool mark that I got going through here, so I'll clean that up slightly, do a little shear scraping on that. That's better. Alright, time to go in here and start working up this and try to maintain some of this bark going through these edges. These flyaways, you come against it, you can get them off just where you got fibers. Now, some of you might have seen me already doing what I'm going to show you next quite a few times. But for those of you who haven't, and you are struggling with maintaining your bark on your piece, let me bring you over the top, but somewhat. Well, hopefully this will give you a decent view of what I want to show you. And like I said, some of you who've been around for a little while and have seen many of my videos have seen that I do this, and it's my preferred method of being able to maintain bark. If I go in here with a bowl gouge and start going at this, well, it's very likely that I will be chipping away quite a bit of this that I don't want to chip away. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of loose pieces that are going to go regardless of what I do, but my method to be able to keep as much of this, and you can see that I have a lot of pieces, but to keep most of this on, well, actually, I shouldn't say that's the only thing that makes it work, but one of them is, you know, I make sure that I apply a little bit of CA to the bark, and that hardens it up. But even if I don't apply CA, the method that I use that I find to be really effective, you should give it a try, is using a parting tool as your starting cut for the piece you're working with. And you will see that is a very important factor on whether you're going to keep the bark standing tall or not. I just want this piece to dry up a little bit, because that whole piece of bark is not loose because of me, it's loose because of its nature. But I don't want to lose it. So I will try to see if I can keep that intact. Because if I lose it, what will happen is it will end up looking like this one over here, and I would much rather have the blackness and all the discolorations from nature on the piece being shown up in there. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I sharpened up my parting tool. It's an old Craftsman, nothing special. I don't have any special tools. And you know, I do stuff and I talk about what I use. But my whole idea is to say that you don't need to have special tools. Any tool will do. But if you got this type of a parting tool, or a smaller one, or you know, a bulkier one, it doesn't matter. I just want something that's fairly thin when I'm going in here and cutting a curve to maintain my bark. Sharp, keep it sharp because that's important. And it doesn't matter. It's like my gouges. When I'm using a gouge, it's not like, oh, what type of gouge are you using there? I don't even know. I mean, I know that it holds a decent edge, but it's an oversized spindle gouge, basically. It's probably an old Craftsman, and it's a tool that I use quite a bit. I have two like this 3/4 and a 1/2 inch, and I almost use that exclusively. Exclusively, not because it's a special tool, but it's because it's what I have, and what I have I make do with. And you know, Jimmy Clues, a really great wood turner, one of my favorite wood turners to listen to talking, because you know, that's just it. You know, he's like, if it has an edge, that's his saying, if it's sharp and it has an edge, I use it, regardless of what its name or what its intent for, or what it was intended to be used as. And I love that, because he doesn't like say, well, you need a Robert Sorsby bowl gouge 3/4 inch in order to do this, or buy the very best, or buy what you can afford. And yes, there are times you're going to buy something that's really not too good, and it's not going to hold an edge for you. But until you get something better, that's still a usable tool. I have many tools in my arsenal that I never use because they were a kit, and I found which ones work with me, for me, better than others, and I use that. Now, it could have been the Craftsman for a long time. For a long time, this little Craftsman was actually my favorite hollow. And you can see that. It's no bowl gouge, but it held a good edge. And then there was a toss-up between this one and this one. And this one is a little bit beefier. It holds the pounding that I put into my wood turning a little bit better. So therefore, I use this one. But this is still a great gouge. If I'm doing light cuts and stuff like that, it's, you know, do I say, oh, I got to do this part with this one and this part with this one? No, it's whatever I got at hand is what I will continue using almost throughout a whole wood turning. But if it's this one, but if it's this one, or whether if it's a 1/2 inch, I pretty much use one tool for my whole job. And some people might say, well, you know, that's the wrong way of doing it. You know what? I don't care if that's the wrong way. I achieve what I'm looking for. I get it. I'm not putting myself in danger. Then that's what I'm worried about, or what I concentrate on, is achieving what I'm aiming to get. So here I am, my tool rest, get it a little bit closer on here to my workpiece. Make sure that I'm clear, and I am, and I'm ready to start going in here and saving this precious bark that I got here. Now, I'm seeing my widest edge. I'm staying about 3/8 of an inch in from the very outside edge, and I'm going to keep on going in the same direction that the profile of my bait, my bowl goes. So it's roughly at a 45. I hold my tool at 45, so I'm following the profile of the bowl. Then I will go in there and adjust it with my bowl guide. Now, I can see my line. I know where I am. I can see how thick of a bark area I got. I'm not going to be working much with this, but I am going to keep working with this until I reach the lowest point of the bowl, which is here and here. And I will only stop using this once I establish a cut going deep enough to work this bark area. Did you see what I did there? I didn't trust going in here in one shot and keeping a tight curve so it doesn't build up heat. It wouldn't wedge up on me. So I double curved it. I opened it up a little bit wider on the inside so my tool could ride in there nice and free without binding up. So I'm pretty much there. I'm just going to go a little bit deeper in here. Now, the thickness of my bowl is somewhat established. I'm deep enough. I don't have to worry about hitting this bark and it flying off on me. All I will concentrate on is cleaning it up. So I'm ready to go in here and really hollow up this, this piece. You know, I should not be saying this but I will say it because that's part of who I am. I am one that I actually get a little annoyed by not their skill level or anything of that sort, but I get annoyed with people that show off the equipment, and it's great to have great equipment. I wish I had better equipment. But having better equipment does not make me a better turner, one way or the other. It just eases up what you do. But if somebody's showing you their tool and say, you know, if you are in a market for a sharpening tool or, a grinder, go with this particular brand because it's better. Screw that. And that's what irks me. You don't have to be with a specific brand. Now, if you are shopping for the quality and you don't have a budget that you have to worry about, by all means, do your research and buy what you think is the best that you can possibly afford. Variable speed. Buy the best possible stones for your grinder. Buy all these accessories that come up and make your grinding, your sharpening as easy as you can afford. But what you can afford is not the dictating point of what you should get. Nope, I think I said that wrong. What you get at whatever budget you're in, you can make it work. I don't care if you go to Salvation Army and buy a $10 Craftsman grinder like I've had here for a long time, 6-inch wheel disc. If you go to Harbor Freight and buy a 6 or an 8-inch grinder, you know something? That wheel turns. That wheel is fairly true in vibration. You're going to get the same results that you do from a different one. Maybe not as powerful, and maybe it didn't break a wallet as much. But I say to anybody that says, oh, you should get as a Powermatic because it's the best tool in the market. I agree. It's a great tool, but I can't afford a damn Powermatic. I can afford a cheap used grinder, and that's what I use. Or I can afford this Atlas that I have, and I put a lot of features into it. And you know something? It's a great lathe. It doesn't have the variable speed, but I can do anything with this lathe that you can do with your Powermatic with the same options. Whether if it's a Powermatic, whether if it's a Jet, whether if it's, whatever. The features that I lack is the variable speed at a touch of a button, and it's a great feature to have. So if I could afford one with variable speed, adjustable button, I would go with something with the means of what I can afford to buy that would have that variable speed. Not name brand, I don't brand anything. I don't care what manufacturer made this particular gouge. Am I glad I got it? Absolutely, but because it does hold an edge for me pretty well. But I got this with a lathe. I paid $100 for my lathe and like 15 tools. And I'm still working with it. Yes, I've upgraded. I've done riser blocks. I've done counter shaft. I've done, I was lucky the lathe came with a 1.5 horsepower. So what I'm going to say to you is, yes, if you buy a lathe and it's got a half horse, a 3/4 horse, and you're boggling it down, the problem is not the lathe. The problem is probably a simple upgrade. So you work with that, and unless you can afford it. If you can afford it, then you don't have to worry about budget. That's a different story of what I'm talking about. But if it's something that, Jesus, I just spent $200 on this lathe and it's not doing everything I want, or it boggles down too easily, depending on the lathe, and I'm going to emphasize on that, you can probably just upgrade the motor to a heavier motor. What does that mean? Does that mean you have to go to Granger or whatever and buy a $300 motor? Damn, that's more than you paid for the lathe. Shop around, wait. You'll come across a used deal, eBay or Craigslist or whatever, somebody wanting to sell a motor that will fit your machine, and upgrade it then. And you still have a nice machine and you have the strength. Now, if it means, spending $50 on a motor or $100 on a motor, I might as well get another lathe. Well, if you feel that that's the area you want to go, by all means. But I don't take away any value from the first lathe that you bought, or whatever your budget was. I get irked, I get annoyed by people telling me, well, you know, I got a Carter & Son. I'd love to have Carter & Son tools. I would love to, but again, it brings me to the point that it does not make you a better turner. It makes it a little bit easier. So if anything, you become a lazier turner because you buy all these little bells and whistles to assist you with your turning. Have fun. Do whatever you want with what you got, and as you can improve, buy something that will twitch it up a little bit and make it even better. So if you buy nice tools, good for you. I envy you. That is great. But don't come and say, well, I'm only doing this because I got this. Well, I do deep hollowing with whatever I got, you know, without a hollowing system. You know, would I like it? Yeah, damn, I'd be a fool if I didn't. But I would never come and tell you that you need it to do it. No, you need ambition, and you need whatever you have is what you need, not what somebody else has. Let me get back on this and stop rambling on. Now, there, when you're working, and I got 3 inches or 2.5 inches between the base of my bowl and my gouge, and that's way too long of a distance. You know, you should always maintain your tool as close to your work as possible. So I do this all the time. I bring my tool on an angle, and everybody else does as well. Keeps it on an angle. Now I'm 3/4 away from my work, so that makes a lot safer, and you get better cuts that way. Okay, the walls are pretty good. I just want to take off a little bit from this ring on down towards the center. Now this area right here is very funky, and it's very easy to dig into, and that's that separation of the wing, where the crotch goes all the way to here, and then there's a hairline split that goes from here on up. Again, this still makes this bowl a somewhat of a dangerous bowl, or an easy bowl for you to lose. So some CA going through there that will harden up those fibers. CA going down this little split that I got going through, and finish it off with that. Now 2 CA on the border, inside border of the bark, very little, just to harden this up because I'm going to be sanding this. And the sanding on the bark will eat away a lot quicker than it will on the wood. So you want to harden it up as well, and it will give you an ultra finish at the same time. So to speak, you're killing two birds with one stone by doing this. And that's it. I mean, I let this dry for a couple of minutes. Let the CA cure up a little bit. I don't use accelerator. Not because it's not good, just because I never bought it. And it brings me back to the same point. Just because you don't have it does not mean it doesn't mean you have to have something. It just means that you get it when you can. You get it when you're able. You get it when you think that it would be a real use that outweighs the cost. And that's how it is, and that's how you gotta treat, that's how you treat everything in life. Don't put yourself in debt because you want to be a wood turner, or you want to give it a shot to wood turning, and you're thinking, oh my God, with all the things that I need, I might not be able to afford. Start slow, accumulate, they will come. They will come. There's a couple of things that, I say, I'm going to talk about lathes and what you should expect if you venture out into this beautiful and highly addictive passion or hobby or whatever you want to call it. With me it's a passion. But if you are thinking of picking up a lathe and you have no idea what's in store for you or how much you're going to be needing to spend by the time you're all said and done, okay, again, that basically goes by your budget. But if you go Craigslist in your area, if you're fortunate enough to have Craigslist on your area, you can find decent lathes. Now, one thing that I would stay away from is tubular lathe, like the old Craftsman that has a tube that runs along the length of the table. It's not because of power, and if you have one, you can still work with it. So I shouldn't even say that, but it's more problematic because lining up the tailstock with the headstock, you're on a tube, so they can fluctuate a little bit. So you have to take that into account. But for the same price that you can pick up a tube, you can pick up a rail style. So anywhere from $100 to $250, you can buy a nice lathe or a decent lathe. Shop around. Accessories is something to look for. Well, if you go out even to Harbor Freight and you buy a full kit of one of these, your gouges, which is like this, okay, a decent set high-speed steel costs you $80. So sometimes with a lathe, you can get a used set. Mix and match, it doesn't matter. A used set with it. So if that's the case, that's a huge plus. So you get a couple of gouges, a roughing gouge, maybe a skew, and something like that. And the only thing that, again, it's not 100% needed, but you're going to want You're gonna want it because it opens up what you can do with your lathe, and a lot easier is a chuck. Now, chucks are not cheap. That's sometimes you'll come across one. Maybe anywhere from $80 to $200. But even on eBay or something like that, or different vendors will have a special, and they will have a decent chuck for around $90, $99, or something like that. Like this is a Nova chuck, and this chuck you can probably buy it for around $100, brand new. So, is it a bad chuck? No. This will diversify the usage of your lathe immensely. You can always buy different size inserts, but I did for a year with just this one size. I would just keep it in mind that that's the size I have, so everything I would turn based on the tenon would be based for this. And it's a nice chuck. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So that's one feature on the top of the lathe that most of the time when people are selling a lathe, they're not including the chuck because they use it up for their upgrades. They keep it with their lathe, or if they've got a secondary lathe, they're going to use it up. So that's the thing about the lathe. I'm not even going to go into thread size. There are always solutions to, even if you have an oddball like I do. Mine's is an oddball thread size. But I'm finding chucks, I'm finding inserts. I might not find all the faceplates that I want, but that's basically it. So anywhere from $200, to $500, you can definitely get a nice setup where you can bring it to your shop, mount it up, put a chunk of wood on it, and you're there turning. Just be safe and never take the lathe, regardless of what lathe it is, for granted. It's a tool that things are spinning on an open air, and you can get catches on your knuckles, and some really nasty stuff can happen on a lathe. So I urge you, watch professionals on tool approaches and mounting techniques and all that stuff, and disregard them of what they say that you need to buy. Just ignore that part. You need to buy what you can afford. That's it. But anyway, you will learn a lot of techniques from different turners and approaches and easy ways, even how to mount stuff on if you don't have a chuck. Bob Hamilton has that. Stephen Ogle did a video on turning a bowl without it, and I did my first quite a bit of turning for the first 3 or 4 months or so, all without it because I didn't have one. So, but yes, once I put one on, it never left my lathe again, basically. So that's basically it. Well, now finishing this, basically it's sanding, and my drill is in my truck. Well, I think you get the idea with the sanding, so I'm not going to record any more on the sanding, but I go through the grits, 80 to 400, and I'll get back when I'm actually applying my final sanding of the steel wool and applying my sanding sealer and the wax. Well, I'm in here, I've gone through the 400 grit, steel wool, and now just the Scotch Brite. The gray one, I think it's rated 800 grit, but I'm not sure. I just buff it up a little bit, clean it up. And I have to apologize at the same time to everybody for my rambling and my saying how I get somewhat disgusted when people are telling you that you should go out and buy the very best, and I apologize for that, because if by all means, if it's within your budget and and you can afford to buy the very best, then go out and buy the very best. The only thing that I don't take back is the fact that if you come across that the only way you can do what you do is because you have what you have, I'm going to call you out on it, because that is not the case. It might make it a little bit easier. It might be a more pleasurable experience. It might be many things. You get less vibration, you get this, you get that, you get the variation of speed. Those are all givens that one should not overlook, and there's nothing wrong with emphasizing and saying, wow, it's so much nicer to turn this on this lathe versus what I had before, which was that lathe. There's nothing wrong with that. You are basically saying, hey, I did an upgrade. For me, that upgrade was really worth it. I'm glad I did it. But don't come with all of a sudden, if I hadn't done this upgrade, I wouldn't be able to do what I do, because that's kind of what irks me. Or if it comes off anywhere remotely close to that type of statement. Now, I'm looking at this, I'm done with it, and yet I'm not happy with it. I realized that I kept these areas fairly thin, and yet the bowl out here is rather thick, and there's a little bit of flexing for me to really be able to go in there, but I don't like that, and I'm not going to settle for that. So I'm actually going to go in here either from outside or inside and take a little bit from the stop edge, like where just this area right here, because by the time I get here I'm fine. I don't like that. Okay, this is the wrong time to be doing this after all the sanding that I've done. And hopefully I don't lose it. Now, this is very flexible out here, but I don't like the way it stands, so I'm going to see what I can do. Very light though. Take a look. Now that I've kind of messed it up, so what do I do when I do something like this? And I was happy with the results of how I kept the bark, and all of a sudden my bark is gone. Well, I'll tell you what I do. What I do is I glue up pieces of bark back in their place and then sand them off. So you're good. It's really nice when you can find all the pieces of bark. But if you don't find the pieces of bark, it's not the end of the world. Bark is coarse, and it will have different characters from piece to piece. Now for this bark over here, this area that I'm working on, all that's missing is the outside skin coloration, basically. So any skinny piece of bark that you put there and will contour will do the job. You don't have to have the specific. And then of course, to finish it off, you just sand it off. You don't cut it. You don't do anything with cutting on this. Oops. You don't do anything with cutting on that. Again, you've done all the cutting that you needed to do with your specific piece. And all I need is a piece to complete this. And I keep dropping it. Here it is, a bark repair that can be seen. And here's the Minwax sanding sealer that I use. It's a water-based sanding sealer. Sold at Home Depot. Might be sold in other paint stores or hardware stores in your local area. From my understanding is Depp used to sell a sanding sealer that seems that they've gotten away from. And people are telling me that all they can pick up is the water-based. Well, I'm not so sure if it's a problem. I don't know if you're getting gumming up of it. I don't know what's causing that gumming. This is a water base. You know, maybe it's because you're power sanding it and not wet sanding it after application. I don't have any gum up from this whatsoever. I apply it. It dries up very quickly, and then I break it down with 1200 grit wet dry sandpaper. But if I do try to power sanding it, the heat that gets generated by the disc does gum this one up as well. But because I don't power sand after this, other than buffing, power buff, maybe that's the problem that you're having. Try not power sanding your sanding sealer after you've applied it. Now, this thing, this bowl, the bark, is a little over an 8, maybe 3/16 in thickness. Not much at all. It's a very thin bowl. It should hold up. Should not warp up on me or split up from this point on. And yes, the thinner you turn something, the less likely it is for it to split on you. You might want to keep that in mind for your turnings as well. And then if you are, then if you're doing something that actually you want to do turning in several passes, in other words, if you rough turn and you let it dry up, well, then the formula is 10% of your diameter should be left in wall thickness. So if you have a 10-inch bowl, you should have basically a 1-inch thickness for the drying process. I don't use that. I don't do that at all. My bowls basically come to the lathe, whether if they're wet or dry, I turn it from beginning to finish in one sitting. Again, it's not because it's better than anybody's method or anything like that. It's what I do, and you know, I will occasionally lose a piece because it warped too bad, but that's actually only happened a couple of times out of all my turning, of 2 pieces that I thought were not usable after that. And actually that was in oak, where they came pretty warped up, and the reason why they were not usable is because it was a finished piece, not a natural edge. Now a natural edge, if it warps on me a little bit, or if it oblongs, as long as I can get it where it sits, it doesn't rock, then that piece just developed its characteristics. Platters is the same thing. If I got a platter and it's very thin, and you know, started off with a true face on the top, and then a couple of weeks later it has a little bit of waving on it, that does not deter me from showing off that piece. In my book, and as far as I'm concerned, that's a good look in the piece in most cases. Like I said, there's been a couple of cases, and it's because I had like a domed piece, and of course, you know, it warped and no longer does it have its shape. So therefore, it's not a usable piece per se. But had that been a different style, different shape of bowl, yeah, it would have still worked. So right now, I'm getting ready to wet sand this with 1200 1200 grit wet dry. And it becomes milky as I'm sanding it, which is an indication that I am breaking down the sanding sealer. And all I'm doing with it is really breaking down brush strokes, and the sanding sealer is able to get in there and fill up any minuscule hairline scratches that might be there that would affect your finish in the final stages. of achieving a good shine. Now, shine is not something that I'm necessarily looking for in all my pieces, but I am looking for a reasonable finish. So reasonable to me goes anywhere from a satin to a gloss. And the gloss finish comes once in a while. Most of the time my finishes are somewhat of a satin look, which I don't find to be offensive either. But if you want to achieve that high gloss finish all the time, spend more time on your sanding, apply more applications of sanding sealer, wet sanding in between, and more applications of the of your wax, your final finish, whatever you are applying to your piece. But that's how much time I put into mine. The time that I put into mine shows off the finish that I put into it. Like I said, if I wanted to achieve a better finish, a better gloss, you know, I'm not stuck at where I am. I would be able to spend another hour or another 45 minutes on the piece and go for that look. But to me, whatever I get out of this, I'm happy with it. Get all the blobs of sanding sealer off the bark. I don't want to see no white blobs or anything like that. Clean it up because the wax is not going to be able to go in there either. And this one, I was thinking I was going to apply the shine juice mix, but I'm going to take a look at it and see what it looks like with a min wax, my finish of choice that I use most of the time. And this is min wax, base wax. I tell you, it sure feels good to be back in here and doing this. Not so sure if I still got my touch, but it would come back for sure. And it will come back. The job that I'm going into, it's only an 8-week project of building a restaurant, which is, you know, we don't have the luxury of being laid back and letting things come into play. It's constantly a go, go, go scenario. 8 weeks goes by very quickly, and if you don't have all the key components in place, well, then the end, it shows off your final stages of, you know, whatever you rushed through and to make it happen. And the last one I just did was I stepped into it. I think 3 weeks already into the project. It was a 12-week project. And when I stepped into it, it was already behind on schedule. Some because of the way it was being managed. Some of it was the default of landlord and architectural and not deciding on time what they wanted to do with the space, with its certain limitations that came up on a project. But of course, the owners, the client, doesn't want to hear anything in relationship to it being in any shape or form being their fault. The way they look at it, oh, if you're stuck because of this, then basically they depending how much they know about the construction end, they're telling you to go ahead and put them drywall before you have inspections up and before you have framing all done and all those things. And sometimes you don't have that luxury of being able to get partial inspections and all that stuff. So the building department only gets pissed off at you for you calling for them to inspect little sections of something that is not ready for them. So, but that's what you got to deal with. But they don't want to hear that. They think that whatever obstacles came in the way of the lathe, it only delays that little part of it and nothing else that goes forward from that part. They think that things should still flow around that, and we all know that, at least we should know that that's not the case. But anyway, it's definitely a stress job, so this will be a relaxation away from the stress that I've had to deal with. Well, I can tell you, I'm not overly thrilled with the finish, but I'm not disappointed either. It looks pretty good. The gloss is there, the shine, but not bad. Not bad at all. And, I know the dangers, but I love when I get things like this happening to a piece. And, this makes it all worthwhile of what I was dealing with at the beginning with the wood. And I'm so glad that I was able to save at least this one piece out of the whole pile. It's time. Wow, I had a catch at one time in here, but it's time that I reverse chuck this and finish up the inside. The base. So let me see how I'm going to mount this particular one. Yep, I'm going to remove my chuck, and I'm going to use this as somewhat of a jam chuck and protect it with some paper towel. And see how that goes. Now, normally, if I could fit a piece of tape, a roll of tape on this particular chuck, but because I got the 4-inch, it doesn't fit. Or else that's what I would be doing. But I would just jam a roll of tape on that and put my piece in there. But like I said, because of the way that I think this is a reverse thread. Oh my God. This is for... Oh, phew. I thought this was for the back side of the lathe for a minute. So anyway, put that up, put a couple of sheets of paper towel to protect it. And yes, it will scarf up if I don't do that. So I'll make sure that I got enough paper towel on there. Now, I'm going to shape this, and I'm going to make this part of the bowl itself. So I'll just reshape this and make the foot in here, but not lose this projection all the way through. That looks pretty good. Well, here it is. Natural edge, crutch, bottle, washer, bowl. The splitting of where the two branches met up really adds character to the bulb in every level. The shape is pleasing. It's about 3/16, quarter of an inch thickness all the way around. The base, no fancy designs, just a slight concave in here and a very soft gradation to the foot area. The coloration is pretty nice. The finish is not bad, but yeah, this is pretty much one of the only pieces, very little, that I'm able to save from this bottle washer tray that I picked up. I was so excited to get out here and turn some of it. But as you saw in the beginning, the checking on this particular type of wood is unbelievable. I've never seen anything check so bad. You know, where it goes throughout the whole log, the length of the log. Doesn't matter, thick ones, little ones. They're all pretty badly checked. The only way I got to this piece is because I have one log that was about 30 inches, 32 inches in length, and this was somewhat in the middle of it, of a crotch area, as you see. If this weren't towards the middle, this would have been just as badly checked. I was a little worried about this one, you know, which I knew this was a very weak point throughout the whole thing. It held up. Now what I had going in my favor is that the fact that the jaws were grabbing it and keeping it together as well. Even though I turn aggressive, but I was always aware of what I was dealing with, and not to catch, get a catch, and blow this off. And I'm glad. I really am glad that it went all the way through. it made for a pretty interesting piece. Got a little bit of a void in here. I thought it was actually going to be bigger than that, but it's very little. But those are all pieces, all little characters that add to the piece. This vein going through here, this split going all the way down, the colors that it picks up in between. You know, those are all things that we are lucky when they stay with us. So, natural edge, crotch, bottle washer, bowl. Well, thank you for watching, and this one was really being on the lathe, and not something that was saved up on my computer like the last few ones. The last few were things that I was not going to be posting, and I just want you guys to know that I'm still here. I still, you know, miss doing this work. This is what I enjoy the most, is being out here wood turning. Being away from here for a little while, you know, my tools are taking a little bit of a toll, you know, the moisture in here and so on and so forth. And yes, I cleaned them up prior to leaving, and I put some wax on some of them, on the rails and stuff, to keep it from rust buildup. But there were a couple of them that still got it. The worst one, I think, was actually my disc sander. The table on that, perhaps I didn't wax that one, but it had a coating of rust on the top of it. So anyway, hopefully the way the new job is going, I'll probably be able to do a presentation every other week or so, because I'm all the way across the state, and you know, I'm not going to be able to drive home 4.5 hours, you know, every weekend. But every other weekend, I'll probably leave out of there on a Friday mid-afternoon with directions on what's going on, if I can. Get home and have Saturday and Sunday to put something together, and hopefully it will come out good and you guys will like it. Well, thank you for watching. Hit that like button if you like it. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Actually, I've been wanting to do this, but it creeped up on me and I wasn't even around when it hit me. But over 3,000 subscribers. Unbelievable. I think it's 3,100 subscribers. And yes, I wanted to put fireworks up. I wanted to do something to celebrate, and a thank you video specifically for that, which is a huge milestone, which I gotta tell you, I never thought that would happen. I've been a YouTuber for a while, I guess since 2011, since I posted my very first video, which had nothing to do with wood turning for that matter. It was just a video I had put together and I wanted to share with a few friends, but didn't do anything with YouTube. But this has been going on for, well, I can't say 14 months any longer, but almost 2 years that I've been wood turning. And this 3,000 subscribers has been within that time frame, because before I started wood turning, I had no subscribers whatsoever. Only a couple of people that I wanted to share my video with got to see it, specific people. Like I said, that's huge, and thank you. And like I said, like it, share it, and hit that subscribe button again. I like to see that keep it on growing, and with your help, I know it will. With your help, maybe I can quit my job at some time and concentrate on this, which is what I love doing. But we'll see. We'll see what life brings us. Take care.
We'll see you very soon.